my friend. Thank you so much, Harvey Cummings. Please tip Harvey Cummings on Venmo if you can. Show him your love for sharing his musical talent this morning with us and getting us in the holiday spirit as well. And now for something completely different. Welcome, Daybreak Legends, to our December meeting. It is so awesome to be with you this morning. I am Matt Olin. I'm the founder of Charlotte is Creative and the host of Creative Mornings Charlotte. When I say this morning is special, let me tell you, this morning is special, like raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens special, like wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings special, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes special. I don't know, whatever. It's special. It's special. Why is this morning so special, you may be asking? Well, first of all, this is the first ever Carolina's Creative Morning, or Creative Mornings Carolinas, whichever you prefer, because this event is the first time that 4 chapters in North and South Carolina have come together to produce a single event. So you'll be meeting people in the audience and on the virtual stage from our chapter right here in Charlotte, and from our Raleigh chapter, and from our Asheville chapter, and from our Charleston chapter. Yes, let the barbecue battle begin. It's not too early for barbecue. You'll be hearing from each of those hosts shortly. And in fact, we'd love for each of you to add your city to your Zoom name so we can see who's from where. Now, another reason this morning is so special is because here in Charlotte, we are celebrating our 5th birthday this morning. That's right. This is our 62nd consecutive monthly event. And we could not be more grateful for our community and for our sponsors for getting us here. And we'll get around to thanking our sponsors in a couple of minutes. But first, to our steadfast Charlotte community, I just want to say, 5 years? How did that happen? I mean, it feels like just yesterday when Tom Brady was caught up in Deflategate and Uptown Funk was #1 and Kate Middleton gave birth to baby Charlotte and same-sex marriage was legalized and we finally met Caitlyn Jenner. It was a simpler time, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't all rosy, right? Let's not forget that 2015 was when Zayn left One Direction. And the world was already incredibly divided back then. I mean, there were the people who thought that the dress was blue and black, and then there were the people who swore it was white and gold. So polarized. It was blue and black, by the way. Folks, we've been through a lot the past 5 years, but it has been the ritual of gathering together with each and every one of you every month, celebrating the creative spirit of our cities and the innate creativity inside of each and every one of us. That's what got us here. It's been you showing up, speaking up, lifting up, embracing our creative community, and together changing the narrative of our cities, changing the narrative of Charlotte, that we are a supremely creative city and the world needs to know, and they do know, and that's because of you. So thank you. Happy 5th birthday to you. And here's to the next 5 years. I also want to give a special shout out to those of you who are joining us from around the world. We're glad you're with us too. Now, for those of you who are joining us on Zoom, because I know a lot of you are on YouTube, if you're joining us on Zoom, just a few quick reminders. First and foremost, please choose speaker view, not gallery view. You should see that option in the top right corner of your Zoom screen, and this will allow you to best see the person who is speaking or performing at any given time. Well, secondly, everyone is muted by default to keep the audio as clear as possible, but please keep an eye on that. We want everyone to keep themselves muted to keep the audio really clear. Now that said, please do turn your camera on. We want to see your beautiful Carolina faces, so you can click start video down at the bottom. We want to see you. We want to interact with you. And you can interact with us this morning and show your love for this morning's speakers and performers by using the chat feature and the 2 reaction icons, both found at the bottom of your screen, or just high five your webcam. You know, disclaimer though, Creative Mornings is not responsible for any damage caused by high fiving your webcam or any other digital communication device. That's the fine print. Okay, this morning's global theme, it is biophilia, which was chosen by our chapter in Dusseldorf and presented by our newest global partner, Skillshare. More about them shortly. Now, when we were first presented with this theme, we kind of froze, I have to be honest. I mean, when I first saw the word biophilia, my first thought was, what's biophilia? And then my fellow Carolina chapter hosts and I, we put our heads together and we started to figure it out. I mean, for starters, we found a definition that really spoke to us. Biophilia, a desire or tendency to commune with nature. Okay, cool, got it. We can get our arms around that. And then we started to ask ourselves, how can we really tie this theme to some super awesome speakers for the morning? And it occurred to us, homegrown creatives. That's what our chapters are all about. And our lineup of special guests this morning all have personal ties to the Carolinas. Chapel Hill is a true home for Lewis Black. Jonathan Scales spent some of his most formative years growing up in Asheville and attending App State. Jackie Shelton Green is North Carolina's poet laureate, for goodness sake. So we have a lot of homegrown creativity to share with you in the next 70 minutes, plus some live music and a game for everyone to play. But before we go any further, I want to pull in my fellow Creative Mornings teammate and MC, Michelle Gabadia, so I can bask in her radiant energy, her Gabadia glow. Good morning, Michelle. How are you doing?
Morning. Good morning, friends. How are you? You know, this is pretty exciting. I am referencing Voltron. Maybe I'm dating myself a little bit, but remember the cartoon Voltron when all of the different members came together to create Voltron? That's what we're doing this morning. We have Charlotte, we have Asheville, Raleigh, Charleston, and everyone from around the world coming together in this ridiculous creative mass. I am hype. My energy on 10, or like the kids say in the street, on fleek.
I love that analogy, although I have to say, when the body comes together, I don't know. I think Charlotte might be the gut, maybe the belly, the torso. I'm not sure.
I mean, that's where the best food is. So yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, definitely the gut, torso. I'm gonna go with abs, the core.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Charlotte is abs. Great. Michelle.
Well, let's get
Could you engage our audience for a moment and just get us all thinking about this morning's theme a little bit?
Absolutely. Let's get the mind juices working. I got 2 questions that I want you all to engage in the app with. So in the chat, if you haven't pulled up your chat yet, pull it up, get your fingers ready. I have 2 questions. My first question, what's a nature setting in your city where you find solace and inspiration? A nature setting, not your bedroom, unless your bedroom's outside, a nature setting. Yeah. Ooh, I love the Blue Ridge Highway. Absolutely. The Blue Ridge Mountains, Balsam, North Carolina Museum of Art. I love that too. Got a lot of rivers going on. I don't know if it's nature in Charlotte, but that Whitewater Center will get you all the way convening with nature, especially on the trails. Latta Nature Center, I went there for the first time 2 weeks ago. Someone said Crowder's Mountain. If you have not done Crowder's, you need to go ahead and take the easy trail. I don't know what your legs are doing, what your glutes are doing, but do yourself a favor. Duke Gardens, absolutely. The Daniel Stowe Botanical Gardens, the Botanical Gardens in Chapel Hill, for sure. Someone dropped a picture, appreciate that. Shem Creek Park in Charleston, yes. Lake Wiley, absolutely. One of the treasures of the Charlotte metro area, for sure. It's for everyone. The Arboretum, absolutely. Notice how many people are putting stuff in the chat, and ask yourself, have you been to these places? These are all drivable and within distance. Explore North Carolina, explore South Carolina, go to these places. Lake Norham, the Uwharrie National Forest, absolutely. I took students there once, ask me about it later. But yeah, these are some amazing places. And if you haven't seen them, they will get your creative mind, body, and spirit moving. Make notes, friend. Take a couple of notes. You know, we're all about staycations these days and staying put. And these are places where you can get outside and we can be socially distanced and really enjoy nature. Here's my second question for you. And feel free to keep putting these places because these are great. I love it. Someone said, Tuolumne, Olympia, Washington. Yeah, yes, we can go out to Washington when the gates open up. The second question, what is one gift that being in nature gives you personally and creatively? What is that one gift that nature gives you? Oh, I see gratitude. Yeah, absolutely. Something about nature that makes you feel like there is bigger space and energy out there, right?
And our lineup
Peace of mind.
Guests this morning all have personal ties to
Absolutely, absolutely. Peace, perspective, clarity, fresh air. Some of us have not been getting enough fresh air. We've been in front of our laptops. We've been doing at work from home. We've been doing school at home. We need to get out in the air. Take the laptop outside and breathe some fresh air. Absolutely. Resilience, safety, wonder, awe. Ooh, I love this. Ancestral roots. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just rooting yourself to the ground, to the earth. Curiosity, permission for your body to roam freely. Vitamin D. Yep. Get the sun. Get the sun. Personally, I like to infiltrate my melanin with the little vitamin D and get that glow on. You know, some of you call it a tan. I call it my skin. So again, yeah, vitamin D. I'm here for that. Creative space, connection. These are awesome. Keep them going. Hopefully those two questions really kind of situated you on where we're going this morning with our theme and has energized you and seen what our friends are thinking and how they look at nature, how they convene in great places that they like to go. Thank you for engaging in the chat, friends. I appreciate that. So let's get started. I'm going to pass the screen over to Vishali Patel. This is the host of Creative Mornings, Raleigh, and they're going to start us off right like we always start by reading our manifesto.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I'm really excited to lead us in, well, I'm not leading, I'm gonna have our community lead. And one of the things I love about the manifesto is just starting our gathering with a statement of what we all believe and what brings us together. This beautiful reading is brought to us by members of all 4 communities. So I will have the magic behind the screen share that video.
Everyone is creative.
A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty, and hard work.
We are here to support you, to celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things that you love.
Everyone is creative.
We believe in the power of community.
We believe in giving a damn.
Everyone is welcome.
We believe in face-to-face connections.
In learning from each other. In jazz hands.
Virtual claps and virtual snaps.
Bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Let's get it.
Everyone is welcome. Todos son bienvenidos.
Thank you so much, Vishali, for taking the lead on assembling that manifesto video for us, and to all of the Creative Mornings community members who submitted their clips for that. Our manifesto really is our global North Star. You know, it keeps us grounded and focused and always aware of why we gather together each month. And it's so great to hear those words coming from all over the Carolinas. Okay, so now we have some incredibly generous sponsors to thank. 4 cities worth of sponsors, in fact. Because we wouldn't be here. None of our chapters would be here without the ongoing support of our sponsors, both on the local level and on the global level. Now, those of you who are joining us from the Charlotte chapter know that in the Queen City, my co-host Tim Miner and I have come to expressing our gratitude, our undying love for our sponsors in song form. Isn't that right, Tim?
I'd put air quotes on that, song form.
Yeah.
There will be notes. I can't guarantee the order they'll be in and whether we'll hit them or not.
Well,
but
I agree. And I'm not really sure how this became a tradition here. I mean, maybe there's something in the water that makes Charlotteans have bad hearing. Or maybe we all just have hearing loss from the NASCAR.
Or masochists, you know, that they just really want the punishment. This is a rare opportunity for us to not only risk losing our sponsors, but the sponsors of 3 other chapters. This is an unprecedented opportunity to
do a lot of damage.
Convey love or burn it all down.
Yes, we could do a lot of damage right now. So anyway, on behalf of 4 Carolina cities, we are going to attempt to thank all of our sponsors in one horrific song. And since we're celebrating the creativity of the Carolinas this morning, what better song to slaughter than the breakout from Dirty Dancing, filmed right up the road at Lake Lure. Now, Tim, I do need to say something before we play this video, okay? If you look back at the clips from the movie, Patrick Swayze really had his shirt unbuttoned pretty low.
Yeah.
So that was the look I was going for in this video. but for some reason, when I do it, it just looks like I'm trying to sell you a used car.
I decided once seeing your portion, I would go one button lower, because while I looked at the Swayze Jennifer Grey ratio, I really didn't feel that either of us had the baby quality. So it's two Swayzes.
Yeah. Hey, what's it going to take to get you into this 2013 Ultima? That's what I want to know.
I just want everyone, before you hit play, this is meant to be an expression of love to our sponsors, and love takes many forms.
That is the intention. Let's not delay the torture any longer. Steve, dare I say, roll the tape. Now we had the time of our lives at Creative Carolina Mornings, north or south, or on Zoom, and we owe it all to you.
'Cause we had the time of our lives, and we owe it all to you.
Here in Charlotte, sponsors know we say thank you for their dough, a bit off key.
We love Charlotte, Starham, yeah, Skookum, Ortho, Boingo, and WFA.
Pure intentions gets us jacked, for our websites can't be hacked, seriously. And we must show gratitude to Chef Ron, the man, the dude, at Community Culinary School of Charlotte.
Now we head east, counterculture is their Molly. Walter Mag and C. Modern East.
And Bay Raleigh, thank you. We've had the time of our lives at Creative Carolina Mornings, north or south, or on Zoom, and we owe it all to you. Hey, Tina.
Now let's pause for a sec. Our global buds need some love right now.
Basecamp, they keep us sane, and MailChimp's emails really wow, yeah.
Now we've got a new partner. Skillshare says, share them skills with me. Share them skills.
Gotta thank now Center for Craft, Blue Spiral 1, UNC Asheville, and Charleston loves Redux. Their venue is deluxe. We've had the time of our lives at Creative Carolina Mornings, north or south, or on Zoom, and we owe it all to you, 'cause we had the time of our lives and a monthly Carolina Mornings, north or south, or on Zoom, and we owe it all to you. Time of our lives at these monthly Carolina Mornings, north or south, or on Zoom, and we owe it all to you. Had the time of our lives at Creative Carolina Mornings, north or south, or on Zoom, and we owe it all to you.
all I do, and we owe it up to you.
Hey, sponsors, if you're still with us, could you put something in the chat so we know that we still have money?
Seriously amazing. I mean, can you guys send that out as a link so that we can just replay it over and over to kickstart every single Friday that exists for the rest of our lives?
There's enough toxicity on the internet right now, but Sarah, I'm happy, very happy to send that out if that's the request. Absolutely.
I would be
Like,
worried.
who do I tip on Venmo is my question. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you guys should be paid for your performance.
I'm worried it's like The Ring. Everybody that sees it dies 7 days later, but we can give it a try.
We'll see. We'll clock in 7 days and see what happens. Thanks, guys. That was amazing. Truly amazing. My name's Sarah Williams Scalise. I'm the co-host down here in Charleston, South Carolina for our Creative Mornings chapter. South Carolina, stand up. If we're talking about barbecue, just very briefly, while I have the spotlight, Rodney Scott's has been on Netflix. So I saw a lot of other comments about barbecue, just wondering who else has been on Netflix. So anyways, I digress. All right, we're gonna thank some sponsors, one being Asheville chapter's platinum level sponsor, the Center for Craft. And they are a national nonprofit organization. They're committed to a vision of a thriving craft field built upon a deep understanding of the history of craft, lively critical discourse, thoughtful making, and a strong next generation, which we can all, I think, on the same page hope for. The center awards grants across the country, and this past year they increased grants awarded to craft artists, scholars, educators, and organizations that were economically impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This wouldn't be possible without supporters like you, all of you, in your little faces and your little boxes on my screen. You can make a big impact with just a gift of $5 today, and they would invest in the next generation in this world that is so vibrant and becoming so vibrant because of places like them. So Tim is going to drop the donation link into the chat. Feel free to click on that and give your $5. Forgo your coffee today and help the next generation of creative geniuses. All right, next up, we've got some global peeps to thank. First up is a newbie. Skillshare. Okay, I need to just quickly quote the great American hero, Napoleon Dynamite. He once said, I don't even have any good skills. You know, like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills. Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills. Shout out if you remember that movie. I quote it on a regular basis. Anyways, Skillshare is here to save the day. They are our newest Creative Mornings global partner. They're an online learning community helping millions take the next step into their creative journey. They're joining legends like MailChimp, Basecamp /Hey as one of the generous partners that makes the global community of Creative Mornings possible. So welcome to the fam bam, Skillshare. This month only, December, such a magical month. They're offering 1 month free for attendees of Creative Mornings events around the world. So you can find classes that you can take. Anyways, there's a link, you should check it out. All right, next up, we've got MailChimp. And they are Creative Mornings official global partner for marketing. All these fabulous emails that you guys get every month are amazing because of MailChimp. They make it so easy for us as organizers to communicate with you guys and for you to receive your Zoom login information, funny links to YouTube videos, we pretty much copied what Charlotte does this month. So thank you, Charlotte. All right, they have some exciting news as well. Earlier this year in 2020, they redesigned their longstanding partner program. So it's now easy to join as a freelancer or agency at any level. And they teach you how to level up, which I think is what like 2020 is all about. Level up, level up, level up. So if you use MailChimp for your business or your clients or your organization or your nonprofit, then you want to definitely check this out. Also linked in the chat. And then we've got Basecamp. So that is our global partner for project management. That's how we love to communicate internally. And they started this new email service called Hey, which I think is also a 2020 quote, like this on the Zoom. And the new thing from Hey is they're trying to bring a little relief to the dumpster fire that has been 2020. So they're doing it with a literal dumpster fire, shown here, pixelated. Currently accepting email submissions containing content that you want to watch burn, which is crazy. So submit your email through the link in the chat and we can watch it set ablaze. Also, make sure to check out the live stream. Turns out the soundtrack to Dumpster Fire is the perfect background music for working from home. Who knew? Okay, next. I want you all to just get your smiling video faces on. We're crossing state lines here, people. We are literally breaking down borders because that's what we love to do here in the Carolinas. And we're gonna chat with each other. And we know that that's not for everybody. So if you guys want to take a break, refill your coffee, do whatever, hang out in this room. When you get invited to a breakout room, just politely decline and stay in this main room and you guys can listen to Harvey Cummings play some amazing tunes. Or you can accept the invite into your little breakout room and chat about the best barbecue in the Carolinas. Here we go.
You're muted.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. You're still muted. Hello. Hello, it's Tony. Do you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Everyone's in breakout rooms right now, so we're gonna get back to the program in 2 minutes.
Okay, so I should mute.
Yeah, you just go mute. You guys can go for the next little while.
All right.
Thank you, Harvey. Gorgeous. Whiskers on kittens. Thank you, Harvey. That was amazing. Who got to hang out in the main room and listen to Harvey's musical stylings? So amazing. It's so just heart-filling to see everybody here this morning together from all over the Carolinas. And I'm really excited to introduce our next special guest. In a community like Asheville that's filled with creative sparks, Jonathan Scales burns so brightly. An uber talented musician and composer and steel pan extraordinaire, Jonathan has roots in Asheville, living here and honing his musical tools for over a decade, including founding Jonathan Scales Orchestra. Be sure to check out their Tiny Desk concert. Jonathan attended Appalachian State, where he first met and became friends with Molly Milroy, intrepid Creative Mornings Asheville photographer since event one, day one of our chapter 4 years ago. Molly connected us with Jonathan because of their deep friendship, and she says it's not just his unique musical talent that makes Jonathan shine bright like a star, it's his kindness and his deep well of creativity. Today, Jonathan continues to write and make music from Brooklyn, where he's joining us from today. And before we invite Jonathan on stage, we want to set the stage a little bit. Jonathan's done the TEDx talk and the Zoom thing, and he wanted this to feel less like a one-way street and more like a place to connect on a deeper level, which of course at Creative Mornings, we love, love, love. So for the next 15 minutes, if you have questions or shout outs for Jonathan, just drop them in the chat. And our MC Matt will pop in here and there to jam with Jonathan. And I mean jam in a conversational sense, not in a musical sense. Don't worry, we all saw that music video, so don't fret about that. But we're so honored to welcome to the Creative Mornings virtual stage, Jonathan Scales.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Good, Jonathan. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. First thing I want to say is I went to the breakout room that happened. I don't know what was going to happen, but I clicked on it. And so I did that for a second. And then when I went back, I got kicked out. And then I tried to get back in and it wasn't letting me in. So it was really scary for a second. But I made it. So
all good. All good.
Yeah, I was going to call you because I was trapped on the outside for a second. Also, I want to give a shout out to Harvey. Amazing piano playing. It's been really cool to hear on this side. And also the music video that you guys did to thank the sponsors. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, you are way too kind, Jonathan. Way too kind.
So I'm going to actually play something first. And so this is a piece that I wrote, a solo piece that I wrote for my dad, who was in the 82nd Airborne Division. Shout out to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where I went to elementary school and middle school. And so yeah, my dad jumped out of airplanes for a living. And so I wrote this piece to kind of think about what it must be like to jump out the plane, remember all your training, float down to the ground and try to come home safely at the end of the day. So this is a piece called Airborne.
Wow, Jonathan, that was absolutely mesmerizing. I was not expecting to be blown away like that this morning. That was incredible.
Thank you. I'm glad that you could hear it because I wasn't sure, with all the technical things this morning, I was like, I hope that it's coming through. So
No,
thank you.
clear as a bell. But I've lived in New York as well. Can your neighbors hear that in the morning? I wonder.
Probably.
Yeah, well, it's a gift to them.
Well, the cool thing about where I live right now, it's actually this special building in a way that they call jazz dorms. So back in the 1940s, this building became a place where a bunch of musicians came. And then it's been a lot of musicians in this building since like 1940. So basically there's like a thing where you can play it's supposed to be from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. You can make as much noise as you want. It's a little early, but they'll be fine.
That's amazing. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So about this topic, biophilia, when he first contacted me about it, just like you were saying, I was thinking of how do I connect that with, something to talk about. And so the thing that I was thinking about is like, all right, biophilia is like, for one, it's a cool Bjork album by that name. But also thinking about just like humans' innate tendency to connect with nature. And I was thinking about how just, we see plants sometimes having to grow through sidewalks and just the way that like mountains are formed and things like that. I feel like nature is the master improviser. When you think about being creative, whether we're talking about like being a writer or musician or whatever, like nature is like the ultimate improviser. But then when it comes to us creating, we have this pressure on ourselves that's like, this next piece needs to be the best piece that I've ever written, or I need to write something that's going to make me money, or like, we have all these creative pressures on ourselves, right? And I feel like that kind of takes away from that natural creative process. And I feel like improvisation as the core is the best way to kind of tap into your most natural creative process.
Wow, what I love about that analogy, it's so spot on because certainly it's super aligned with you as a musician and the musical journey that you must be on. But also, I feel like anyone from any creative discipline can relate to that in some way. This idea of like improvisation and perfection sort of button up against each other.
Yeah. And, the way that I kind of developed that, because I've been thinking about this for a while, just a couple quick stories to kind of set the tone of how I kind of started to think on my feet as a writer of music. So I studied composition at Appalachian State with my teacher, Dr. Scott Meister. And the very first lesson that I had as a freshman, he taught me some kind of compositional technique, some modern compositional technique. And the assignment was, all right, go home and write a piece based off of this little compositional technique, nothing major, just to show that you understand the concept. So I go home, come back the next week, and he says, all right, Jonathan, let's see your assignment. And I said, I don't have it. He said, why not? And I said, I wasn't inspired. And man, I got in so much trouble. I thought that was going to be a valid excuse to not have my assignment.
That didn't fly.
But it did not fly. And also he got really upset. And he's like, if you're going to be a composer, if you're going to be a writer, you need to be able to like create right then. And that was mind blowing for me because, we always grow up hearing about like when inspiration strikes and all these things like that. But what that taught me was that the most important thing is to use what you have in a moment to create right then.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's what nature's doing all the time,
Absolutely.
But like I would be hanging out with my friends in the music building. We were music nerds, so we'd be in the music building at like 12:30 at night, running around in the practice rooms and stuff. And then I would be like, oh man, I was supposed to write like a 4-minute symphony orchestra piece and it's due tomorrow. So then I would go home at midnight, I would stay up all night and I would write this, this symphony piece with like, violins, violas, cellos, bass, trumpet, clarinet, like all the parts, right? And then I would show up to my lesson the next day. And, when my teacher saw it, he never like said anything like, oh man, you just threw this together. And what I realized from that was like, sure, I did it fast and I did it spontaneously, but it wasn't just thrown together. I was really just taking, my knowledge of what I wanted to say and putting it into practice right then. You know, a lot of us kind of, you know, we get writer's block because we're trying to think so hard about everything. We're trying to like, you know, we're kind of off the path of our natural way of creating, if that makes any sense. So that kind of those experiences kind of helped me to be in that mind state.
Wow. So we have a couple of questions that are coming up for us on the chat here, if you don't mind. One is, who are the children and the ancestors who inspire you?
Man, that question is too deep for 9:18 in the morning.
That's a curveball for the morning. Yeah.
I don't even know how to answer that.
What's that?
I said I don't even know how to answer that. And honestly, when it comes to like my creative process, I feel like there's some of it where I don't think about. Yeah. Like for example, people always asking me like, how is it that I started writing this music that's kind of unique for the steel pans? Because most people are used to hearing like calypso and things like that. And that's not something that I ever naturally thought about. Or it's not something that I like went into it saying, all right, you know what, I'm going to change the face of the instrument by doing something no one's ever done, you know? And I feel like that's a very natural way to just do what you do based off of what you're exposed to, just like nature. So like, I can't answer that question because I'm not even thinking like that. And if I was thinking like that, I would be creating something that's different, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. If I thought like, I can't even think about that question. It's a really cool question though.
Well, here's another question for you. This is from our friend Della Friedman, one of our community members, and she's also from our local NPR station, WFAE. Do you create music for films or do you aspire to?
You know, that was my original goal in life. So if there's any people that are making movies out there, hit me up. That was one of my original goals. That's why I went to college originally.
We'll talk to Lewis Black about that in a few minutes. So
yeah. So there's three main kind of points that I want to talk about that's really easy that you can use for whatever you're creating. And I kind of have boiled it down into like a little system, right? Because, you know, we kind of need systems sometimes because our brains as humans we're geared towards thinking structurally, you know, nature just happens, right? So the easiest way I'm going to put it is there's like 3 steps. The first step is like, what is the intention? What is the thing that you're trying to convey? Whether it's emotion, you know, what kind of emotion it is, what kind of vibe you want to put across. So the intention. The second thing is, what tools do you have available to create that? You know, so for example, if you're a musician, it might be a different chord or a scale, or it might be some kind of inspiration. If you're a writer, it might be like some show you watch might have sparked something. So like, or like your writing skills that you learned in college or wherever, they might be coming into play to help you achieve the intention. And then the third part is do it right now. And I feel like when you keep doing that over and over and over and over, you start to develop your voice. To me, that's what your voice is. It's having improvised creatively so much over and over and over that now that's just part of who you are. So like right now, when someone commissions me to write a piece, it's not something that takes me forever and ever. It's something that I just do when I sit down to do it right then. You know what I mean?
I do. And what I love about your perspective on this is that we're no longer at the mercy of inspiration. We're no longer having to wait for inspiration to hit us. You're giving us some tools in the toolbox to create on the spot, because that's what creatives need to do. Right.
And then the other part about that, and you know, I've thought a lot about this. So if this is like too, you know, cerebral, I'm sorry, but this is where I'm coming from. So like I mentioned before, the first thing I think about is the intention, and then I'm going to get a little deeper into this next part. So one thing that I do as a composer, I kind of treat the piece of music like it's a movie script, and that's something that I improvise. So before I even touch the instrument, I sit down with a piece of paper, and just like if you're writing a movie or a play or anything, you set the scene. You say, okay, one guy walks into the bar, and the other guy throws the bar stool, and the other guy catches it, and he breaks it over his leg, and then a bird flies in, and this So just like that, I write what's going to happen. So if I'm writing an orchestral piece, I might say, so I'm improvising right now, okay? So I'll say, okay, it's going to start with the cello, right? And then all the other cellos are going to join in, and then there's going to be a bass part that is like a counterpoint to the cello, and then the horns are going to come in with this like other chord that's kind of like juxtaposing that, and then there's going to be this like woodwind line that's flourishing, and it's going to build up into this big release, and then it's going to hit this big unison. So like that, I just made that up. So I'll write that down, but then I'll go back and figure out, all right, what are the tools and the things that I know that's going to like make all those parts come to life, and then I just do it. And along with that, I feel like people say music is a language. Well, language is the same thing, because what are we doing right now? Like, I have an intention of what I want to say, right? And then I'm using the tools that I have, whether it's vocabulary or expressions or gestures or all these things. I'm using all that right now in real time to tell you something. So I treat, speaking and writing the same way that I treat improvising.
Well, Jonathan, I love the way that you've connected this morning's theme, not just to your professional journey, to your creative process, but also made it analogous to, I think, what everyone on this call can relate to in their own journeys, in their own careers. Do you have another piece that you want to share with us before we close this particular segment up?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna play a Beatles cover, actually, but with a little twist. So I'm gonna do Yesterday by the Beatles, but reharmonized. And to me, I feel like it's very poignant for this year because it's been a pretty crazy year. And, yesterday in my head is like, the before times, before all this stuff happened. So this version of Yesterday kind of has this kind of different twist to it, if you will, just the vibe of it and the emotions that it brings across. So I'm going to do a quick reharmonization cover of Yesterday.
Beautiful.
All right.
Jonathan, thank you so much. Sarah.
Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you. That was amazing. All of these comments, you need to go into the chat and just read what everyone was saying while you were performing and speaking. It'll inspire you in this moment. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the quickest game that ever existed ever in all of time. It is called Time to Win, but it's in the shortest amount of time ever created. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the Zoom poll, everybody. If you're not familiar with the Zoom poll, you're all very intelligent people. You'll be able to figure it out very quickly. We're gonna see questions pop on the screen. We're gonna see multiple choice. You're gonna pick the one that you think is right. And whoever wins gets an amazing prize at the end that I will announce in 2 seconds.
And
Okay.
Sarah, real quick, we're going to call a quick audible in the interest of time, because I know Lewis Black also has a time commitment later this morning. So instead of doing the poll, we're going to have everyone write their answer that they think it is in the chat. They're going to drop it in the chat to save some time.
Drop it in the chat.
That's right.
Okay, first question. We're talking about exercise. We are going to walk from Charleston to Asheville to Charlotte to Raleigh and then back to Charleston because we're feeling very ambitious. Drop in the chat, how far would you have walked in that time? Someone said 500 miles, which is amazing.
1,000, it's too far. I think the journey is worth it. These are all good Coffee City guys.
We're getting very close. I see some numbers that are very close.
It's all over the map.
Oh, no. Oh, you're right. None of us would walk that.
Okay.
They're all over the map.
All of them.
The correct answer is B, 823 miles. If you guys do that, please tag us on Instagram. Question.
I would walk 823 just to see all of you all in person. I absolutely would.
Yeah, I like that I'm starting from my home and then ending at my home personally on this journey.
2-1 big on that one for sure.
We also realized it makes a little abstract heart. So this is Carolina's love, if you connect the dots here. Okay, second question. What is the largest park in my downtown Charleston? Put your answers in the chat.
Sarah, who wrote these questions? Just a little stack.
I wrote the question. Someone came up with the other incorrect answers.
That would be me.
She Crab Garden sounds delicious.
It does sound delicious. It's like a soup and a salad all in one.
Just trying to throw you guys off here. I think most people got the correct answer on this one. It is B, Hampton Park. It's like 1 million acres large, I think is the approximate size. So question 3. Sir Walter Raleigh, we're stepping back in time. This is a history lesson. Sir Walter Raleigh never stepped foot in present day Raleigh, North Carolina. Is it true, false, or forget Raleigh? What about El Dorado? Put your answer in the chat.
Whoa. I think most people here have been tricked by the naming conventions.
I think so.
It seems to be kind of like 50-50 here.
On to us.
Uh-oh.
All right, the correct answer is true. So good job, everyone that picked either A or typed in true. And Aaron specifically said true. He never stepped foot there. It's a lie. Okay, last question. What plant is native to the Carolinas? Douglas fir, 'tis the season, sugar maple, or Venus flytrap? Put your answers in the chat.
I love this dramatic music. It's really
All right, the correct answer and final answer is C, Venus flytrap. Who shared that? Was that from Asheville?
It's actually from me, from Raleigh.
Raleigh. Amazing. We are learning so much this morning. Okay, folks, tell them what they've won. In the spirit of the giving season, everybody here is a winner. Counterculture is amazing. They are located in North Carolina. I know they sponsor a lot of our coffee needs, and they're offering all of you guys 25% off their winter blend, Iridescent, which sounds beautiful and delicious. So use the code CMRDU25 at counterculturecoffee.com, snag a bag, snag 20 bags to give away to friends and family, and use that today only. Next, Pure Intentions Coffee in Charlotte is offering all attendees 15% off your entire order through December 18th. So we have time to go to pureintentionscoffee.com and use the code BeCreative and snag all of their delicious options and merch. Congrats, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you, Sarah, and everyone for playing it with that game. And we're running a few minutes behind schedule, but I'm super excited to, and I promised Lewis that we'd get him out by 10. So we're moving on to Lewis Black now. Before we do, I want to say thank you again to Jonathan Scales. You are such a treasure, so amazing, so talented. And just to hear your perspective on the theme was beautiful as well. So thank you, Jonathan. Known as King of the Rant, right? Lewis Black uses his trademark style of comedic yelling and animated finger pointing. I'm not even gonna try to do it like him. To skewer anything that gets under his skin. His comedic brilliance lies in his ability to make people laugh at the absurdities and hypocrisies and just madness of life, of which there has been a lot of lately. He has received critical acclaim as a stand-up comedian, an actor, an author, performing for audiences throughout the world. Some of his career highlights for me personally include that he was a playwright in residence at the West Bank Cafe, having developed over 1,000 plays there, including some of his own. He performed 8 sellout shows at the Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway in 2012. His ongoing segment, The Daily Show, Back in Black, has been one of the most popular and longest running segments on that show, including the Jon Stewart era and the Trevor Noah era now. He's a multi-Grammy Award nominee and winner for his many stand-up albums, and he's somehow also established a successful acting career, including starring with Robin Williams in Man of the Year and appearing in Accepted and Unaccompanied Minors and a slew of other movies and TV shows, and having a very prolific relationship with HBO and NFL as well. For me, most importantly, though, Lewis is an incredibly caring and generous man. He has supported many charities and causes, and also supporting our military personnel, having performed in 3 tours with the USO. To that end, in gratitude for him being with us this morning, we're asking everyone who can to give a donation to Feeding Charlotte. Tim is going to drop the link in the donate in the chat. Feeding Charlotte strives to relieve hunger while reducing waste by connecting surplus, freshly prepared meals with members of our community experiencing food insecurity. They are also one of the 9 Seed 20 alumni selected to be a part of the Seed to Harvest program in 2021, so stay tuned for that. Again, you can donate to them at feedingcharlotte.org/donate. Thank you for being generous. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the Creative Mornings Carolinas stage, Lewis Black. Good morning, Lewis. How are you doing?
Just great. It's really my time of day. You know, there's nothing really that inspires a comic more than Dawn.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to see this coming the other way, but I'm I'm okay. I don't think anybody is. When people ask, I think that's the question of the last since the pandemic started. How are you doing?
Yep.
What can you say? How are you doing? The best on any given day. I'm okay.
Right.
If I'm feeling really great, I'm hallucinating.
That's the bar. Yeah. Okay is the bar. That's the line. Yeah. That's the waterline.
And I also think that instead of giving out an award this year for best actor to some movie, it's every American who every day gets up and has to deal with all that they have to deal with and commit their whole emotional being to getting through that day. That level of acting, which in part it takes acting to do that. To say, how are you doing? To say just you're okay is, to deal with your child, to do all of that. The amount of commitment involved is way more than any actor has done, and I've acted in that. And I'm a minimal actor.
We all need to start working on our acceptance speeches, it sounds like. That's what you're saying. Well, Lewis, you may not remember this, but you and I have seen each other many times over the years at the Dodgers and through Carolina alumni events. But the last time I saw you in person was a few years back. We ran into each other at LaGuardia, and you were wearing this cool but casual outfit. It was a t-shirt with a sport coat. And after we chatted and went our separate ways, my wife kept commenting on how good you looked. And so I basically just adopted that look as my uniform from that point forward. I'm a t-shirt and sports coat guy, and it's your fault. So
well, good. But I'm glad I've inspired style somewhere.
You have had such a multifaceted career. And so basically in the time we have together, I've come up with like kind of one question per aspect of your career. I doubt we're going to get to all of them, but we'll see.
Well, you can go a little further than 10. I just needed to be sure you knew that we had, because then I have an appointment, but we can go further, so don't sweat it. I'll
Good,
just go.
okay. Well, let's start here. I want to ask you a question about your work as a playwright, because when you were 12, your father took you to a play and you fell in love with the theater. And this ultimately led to theater degrees from Carolina and from Yale. You owned a theater for a while in Colorado. You wrote tons of plays, many of which have been produced around the country. And again, you and I got to work on a workshop of a play called Funny Business.
Yeah.
If I remember right, had Rosie Perez in the cast as well, but that was quite a while ago. Yeah. My first question is the theater still your first creative love? And what is it about theater that sort of called to you so early on?
Well, it's still kind of my creative love, and I still pine for it. But what drew me to it was I didn't realize till later was the fact that once I became really involved with it, there's a quality of theater that is. The folks who get together to produce a piece of work, it's a family. So you're basically creating a family on one level or another. And there's, something about that I found that I really connected with me. And that it was the best thing about that family more than anything else. And what made it the greatest family ever and why it's such an intense experience is you're a family with a finite number of time. There's only a certain, and then it's over.
Yeah.
So you can go, yes, I really do. I'm out of here. There's something about the level of commitment you can give when you know it's going to end, because all of a sudden the person who is a pain in the neck, who might be your cousin, is only some, is an actor or something, and you go, well, it's a pain in the neck, but I love him because, it's going to be over. Yeah. The other thing about theater that I found attractive was that, and still do, was that it's the one place that we go and create we create a reality together. You walk into a room, everyone agrees. If the playwright does, even half the job they should, and the actors do what they should, the director, the lights, that you basically do everything you can to create a reality together. And there's something, to use the words, there's something spiritual about that.
Yeah.
And there was something that I'm, being out of theater now, except for I've kind of gone back and forth, is that I really miss about that. As opposed to standing alone on the stage, bellowing like a lunatic.
Yeah. Well, I see people dropping some things in the chat talking about how they believe that stand-up is theater of a sort as well. And so let's shift a little into your career as a comedian. When you first ventured into stand-up, I believe it was at the Cat's Cradle in Chapel Hill, or at least that was early on.
Yeah, no, that was the first performance in where I went in and said, okay, your comic tonight is Lewis Black. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And from there, of course, your stand-up career has gone meteoric. I mean, you're consistently ranked one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time. In fact, when I lived in New York, my friends and I were always first in line whenever you were playing in the city. We just couldn't get enough of you. How did your background in theater inform your stand-up writing and performance? And how did stand-up maybe conversely, inform your playwriting, your theater work?
Well, the theater informed my playwriting, I hope, because what it taught me was what I learned from theater was it was easier to tell a story if you just tell the story. Mm-hmm. And if you're the one person telling the story, as opposed to trying to tell the story by dividing it up between a group of people, and then you got to deal with each of them and their part of the story. But if you're standing there telling the story, there's something about that I learned from theater about how to tell a story. I hope that informs my writing. The other thing I got from theater was as I was especially in both the Chapel Hill and later on at the drama school, that I was surrounded by really great actors. I didn't spend a lot of time in comedy clubs. I spent a lot of time in theater. So that a lot of my, I think what I've learned in terms of performance came from them. I mean, there were really some great people that I got to watch and eventually perform with.
Yeah. Well, interesting. I'm starting keeping one eye on the chat too. And someone was asking, hey, what's Lewis's connection to the Carolinas? And so I want to dive into that for a second. I want to connect it to your work as an author. So you said in an interview that I saw online, quote, I've started all of my books down there, meaning in Chapel Hill. It's the last place I did any real work when I was in school at UNC.
Yeah.
So I figured it was a good place to go and to get to work. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how the creative process of writing kind of takes you, how that's different from performing, but also like, what is it about coming back to Chapel Hill, back to the beginning, that gets those creative juices flowing for you?
Well, I always said, from the time that I got down there and the more that I spent down there at school, that, you know, that I kind of went, boy, I'd like to live here. I would really just like to live here. I knew if I lived there, I would get nothing done. I would just be happy, and I could get up every day and, you know, whistle a happy tune and have some coffee and really do nothing. And I felt that, and I made a promise to myself that once I could, that I would, I'd go away, but that would be where I would retire. And I returned earlier than that because it was also, I found a place that I could live, and that, so for 3 months a year, I could go down there, and there was just something about it. That was where Chapel Hill informed the way that I thought. I mean, I was lucky that my high school did it, and then Chapel Hill extended it. And it was there that I could actually kind of get that sense of being able to kind of just, that, you know, I'm going to go in and think about these things, and it's, you know, and that's what I'm going to do. And it was where I wrote. It's where I started writing. I mean, I started writing plays down there, and I didn't really think I'd end up being a playwright, because but I wanted to see if I could do it. And then people seemed to like it. And so I knew that I could kind of go back there, and it was where I felt most comfortable writing and relaxed. And and when I started writing there, I was doing it because it wasn't, I'm setting out to be the playwright. I was just setting out to write. So I didn't, when I was writing the first book, it wasn't like, boy, you've got a first book. It was like, well, I'm going to write a first book. Let's see if that happens. Ha, 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 ha. And what I did learn, and the thing that I could pass on for those out there who do write, and something Jonathan had kind of talked to about in terms of his craft as a musician, is that one thing I discovered is that it's when you reach that point, if you're writing, there was always this thing, I'm going to go think about it. Like he was saying, you know, I wasn't inspired. Yeah. You know, you write along and then all of a sudden you're stuck and you go, no, I'm going to go think about it. Well, you don't. You just go and sit there and bang your head. What I found eventually, and it took almost two books to get there, was that you don't get up and you just keep writing. And you write horrible stuff. You write pedestrian stuff. You just write what your thought would be. You know, what are you trying to say? Not saying it, just and you just keep writing until eventually I found if you kept doing that, your brain would find a spark, and that's when you stop. And you go, I'll come back tomorrow and start from there. And there's a place that I can begin to think from. And that to me was key to at least my writing. And that you don't have to write. Nobody writes 8 hours a day unless they're mildly psychotic. Okay, that's another myth. If you can do 4 hours a day of concentrated writing, great. 6, phenomenal. 8, psychiatric care.
Yeah, those are the levels right there. And when we need to, you know, pull the ripcord and ask for help. And I love what you said about the writing process, because that aligns so perfectly with what Jonathan was sharing with us early in the program. 2 more questions for you. One is, I want to kind of stay in Chapel Hill for a minute. You know, you've maintained a residence in Chapel Hill, and you've worked with UNC students to create the annual Carolina Comedy Festival. You know, that of course has performances and workshops and lectures for budding comics and writers and performers. So tell us a little bit about your passion for working with other creatives, especially younger creatives, and what do you get out of those efforts and those experiences?
Well, what you get is you get a deeper understanding of what it is that you are actually doing. You don't really think about. When I'm doing stand up, I don't think about, you know, I don't think about the craft of stand up. I just think what's funny, what am I, you know, I've come up with something, let's follow it out. How are we going to do this? Da, 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 da. Get in front of an audience. I'm not thinking, ooh, boy, I should move my hand there. But what it allows you to do is step back and think about your process. And understand it also from the standpoint that everyone has a different process. And it really was where I learned, kind of slowly, but the other thing you learn is that that I learned is that humor is subjective. Everybody has their own sense of humor. Because you laugh at something and the other person doesn't laugh at something doesn't mean that there's some great divide. Okay, it just means you find this kind of thing funny, somebody else finds that kind of thing funny. Eventually, there's something that hits everybody, and and I just, what I like about the teaching, and really all I've ever done in terms of teaching the young comics is that I've kind of left it to them. They'll say, okay, so a comic will get up, a student will get up, because I teach basically the experience, not you're going to become a stand-up. So what is it like to be a comic? And, so they get up and they do their thing. And then I turn to everybody, I go, what did you think? And they don't say anything. And I go, no, what'd you think? Because I'm not going to tell you. And then eventually they start talking. And eventually it becomes a self-taught class, because what they learn is, and then I step in with what I might know about something, but what they learn is to not only, what they learn a critical eye of what they think is funny and why it's funny. And that returns to them in terms of if they want to, when they're expressing themselves, because humor is the only thing that we don't teach. No one teaches. You don't teach. You know nothing about. There's not a humor class in
Right.
high school. It's a muscle, and it is left to atrophy in this country because it never is developed, and it's completely stupid.
Well, Louis, I have to say, you said that humor is subjective, but I defy you to find one person who didn't laugh at every line of yours as anger and inside out. Every single line killed me and everyone in my family, and I think everyone agrees with that. Louis, I want to thank you for serving as our channel for our inner fury during these infuriating times. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world and in all the ways that you do, right? I mean, and thank you for your commitment to caring for others, to giving young creatives a shot, to looking out for those who are serving our country or struggling in their lives. And finally, thank you for just being with us this morning. This isn't your time of day, but you're here with us this morning to share your story and your perspective and to celebrate creativity in the Carolinas. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. It was when you said, because he asked me to do this, and I went, oh, great. And then he said, 9 o'clock. I went, are you insane? The worst time would be 5 in the afternoon, because that's when it's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm hitting the wall then too.
Yeah.
So this is the lesser evil, I guess.
Yes.
Louis, you are the best. We can't wait to see you on stage soon. And thank you for everything. We really appreciate it. I want to kick it over now to Rachel Zink to take us into our final couple of moments.
Great. Thank you to Louis. Thank you again to Jonathan. A question I love to ask people is, what is the last piece of art that made you cry? And I have a new answer, your rendition of Yesterday this morning. So thank you for being with us. I'm so honored to introduce our next speaker. Jackie Shelton Green is the 9th Poet Laureate of North Carolina, the 3rd woman and the first African American to be appointed. She's an American Academy of Poets Laureate Fellow. She's in the North Carolina Literary Hall of Fame and a recipient of the North Carolina Award for Literature, the highest award the state can bestow for significant contributions in science, literature, fine arts, or public service. She's recently been appointed the 2021 UNC Chapel Hill Frank B. Haynes Writer in Residence. She's the author of 8 collections of poetry and just released her first album, The River Speaks of Thirst, on Juneteenth of this year. A native of Orange County, Jackie has been active in North Carolina's literary and teaching community for more than 40 years and teaches documentary poetry at the Duke University Center for Documentary Studies. We were so fortunate and honored to have Jackie grace the Creative Mornings stage once before last September when she spoke on the theme of muse, and a more fitting pairing of theme and speaker I cannot conceive. So please welcome again to the Creative Mornings virtual stage this time, Jackie Shelton Green.
Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, everyone. Keeping in the spirit of this theme, who will be the messenger of this land? Who will be the messenger of this land? Count its veins, speak through the veins, translate the language of water, navigate the hills of lineage. Who will carry this land and parcels, paper, linen, burlap? Who will weep when it bleeds and hardens, forgets to birth itself? Who will be the messengers of this land, wrapping its stories carefully and patois of Creole, Irish, Gullah, Twi, Tuscarora, stripping its trees for tea and pleasure? Who will help this land to remember its birthdays, baptisms, weddings, funerals, its rituals, denials, disappointments, and sacrifices? Who will be the messengers of this land, harvesting its truths, bearing unleavened bread, burying mutilated crops beneath its breast? Who will remember to unbury the unborn seeds that arrived in captivity, shackled, folded, bent, layered in its bowels? We are their messengers, with singing hoes and dancing plows, with fingers that snap beans, arms that raise corn, feet that cover the dew falling from okra, bean, tomatoes. We are these messengers whose ears alone choose which spices, whose eyes alone name basil, nutmeg, fennel, ginger, cardamom, sassafras, whose tongues alone carry hemlock, bloodroot, valerian, Daniana, St. John's wort. These roots that contain its pleasures, its languages, its secrets. We are the messengers, new messengers, arriving as mutations of ourselves. We are these messengers, blue breath, red hands, singing a tree into dance. Thank you.
It's just so beautiful. Thank you so much, Jackie. We're so grateful for you all to join us. Lots of wonderful messages today. I hope that we can all carry forth the messages of being messengers, being a part of this community. What a rich experience to be with all of these Carolina community members. Thank you to Jonathan. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you, Lewis. Chapel Hill holds a special place in my heart and many of our hearts. And what a beautiful writing thread through all of this. We love you all. We appreciate you for gathering with us. When we send you lots and lots of care as you go through and commit to being okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Vishali. And I want to thank all the other chapters as well. I mean, you know, Raleigh and Asheville and Charleston. I mean, this has been an awesome experience to end the year, to end this year of all years by doing something together. So it is incredibly moving, and I'm just so grateful to all of just everyone that made this morning possible. So, and happy birthday, Charlotte. Happy birthday to you all. Man, can't believe it. Gosh, can Harvey take us out? I don't know if he's still plugged in or not, but we're at the end, folks. This is it. Till next month.
Wave you off. Thank you for joining. Jazz hands, hearts, hugs, virtual high fives. I love the camera high five. What a beautiful picture, John.